What is up, everybody? We are live here talking all things Super Bowl LX DFS, joined by my man, Mr. Ben Martinez, on the West Coast, fresh off the overnight train conductor shift. Mr. Martinez, I appreciate you joining. I think you're the only person in history who is a train conductor and a fantasy football / betting analyst. How you doing today, man?
Oh man, I'm tired, but yeah, I feel good. Anytime we get to talk about the Super Bowl and start getting bets in, talk all kinds of DFS, I am ready. I'm on like 3 hours of sleep. I got my Celsius boosting me right now, so I'm ready to go. Let's talk about this. Show me how I'm gonna win some money here, Chris.
There you go. There you go. So we're going to talk about just kind of a first look DFS, go position by position. Make sure to catch our two prop shows that we've done this week with Mackenzie and Scott Seidenberg. You can catch those on my Twitter as well as bettingpredators.com and the Bet Life podcast feed. Our partnership also with betterday.com. We've got a lot of things going on right now. Excited for the Super Bowl with prop content, DFS content. Ben and I are going to be doing a lot of best ball content in the near future. And we're just going to talk fantasy. We're going to talk DFS. This is the last time we can set a lineup for a game for a long time until the preseason comes around, or, for the people who are true sickos, or for when week one rolls around, where a lot of us start setting our redraft lineups, start setting our DFS lineups on a weekly basis. We're just going to talk through kind of position by position here, go quarterback first, and kind of just pull up the rankings here for our showdown lineup on DraftKings. We're going to wind up setting a DraftKings lineup at the end here. Kind of broke these into tiers like usual during the season. So we have our super flex tiers. Now, obviously, if you're not familiar with, one game DFS contests on DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, etc., it's usually you have your captain spot. That captain spot earns 1.5 times points. The salary is also more expensive. And then you have your 5 flex spots to fill out the rest of your lineup. So yes. 6-person overall, and we'll get to here and start talking about some of our big picture, micro and macro strategies overall. But just talking about the game itself, Seahawks versus Patriots here. Obviously, Seahawks are 4.5-point favorites. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben, do you have any lean either way in terms of how you think this game script is going to go and how we can kind of think about building these lineups in some type of a correlated way depending on the possible game script here?
Yeah, with what I've been watching, how the Seahawks have been playing, their defense has really been killing everybody. And as a Rams fan, it made me sad to see that my Rams are actually not playing the Patriots this coming Sunday. But for me, I'm definitely taking Seahawks. I'm even heading out to Vegas this weekend, thinking about finding some of the prop bets that have the Seahawks at minus, 10, 13, see if I could jump on some of those as well. I think it's going to be Seahawks blowout. Also loving the under in it as well. So interested in seeing where you have the defense kind of ranked for the Seahawks and seeing how we can fit that either in the captain spot or maybe in the slot somewhere else.
What's your final score prediction here, Ben?
I have it at 24-7. I think they pretty much shut out Patriots all throughout the game. Maybe Patriots score towards the end of the game. I love all the unders in a lot of these games and a lot of the props, a lot of the game.
Okay.
Listening to your guys' prop podcast, just everything's pointing to me towards being the under for everything. So I know you guys had scored a little higher than I have it, but I don't know. We'll see. That's kind of how I'm seeing it right now.
So 24-7, like that's pretty shocking to me. Like, what's your, what makes you think the Patriots won't be able to score more than once here?
I just think the defense is going to be absolutely just going to smash them. We didn't really get to see the Patriots tested a lot throughout the playoffs, even to a certain degree throughout the regular season as well. It's no disrespect to Drake May. I think he's a fantastic quarterback, and he's just going to keep getting better and better. But I just don't see how a team like the Patriots are going to be able to move the ball on the Seahawks defense when everyone other than the Rams have not been able to do it pretty much throughout the year either.
Right. I mean, like everyone talks about the Patriots schedule, right? And I mean, you could have something here. Looking at the wild card game against the Chargers, that the Patriots won 16-3. Again, 16 points, right?
Yeah.
28 points against the Texans in the next round, but they were aided by a lot of CJ Stroud turnovers. They did put up 31 against the Bills towards the end of the regular season with Bills' strong defense, obviously not Seahawks level defense. They put up 32 against the Browns. Earlier in the season, they won at Buffalo 23-20. And then the two losses earlier in the year, 13 points against the Raiders in week 1, 14 points against the against the Steelers in week 3. So I could certainly see certain situations where their offense has failed to show up. You know, I think that's how you kind of want to go about setting up some of these lineups, right? Like for myself, like I like to build single entry DFS lineups, DraftKings, FanDuel. Yahoo doesn't really have anything for this type of slate. It's kind of that third party site. You know, like I will occasionally dabble and fill out a couple different Yahoo lineups throughout the season, like 1 or 2 per week, but it's only 5-man rosters for Yahoo versus 6 for FanDuel and DraftKings. So your optionality getting unique lineups is very limited there. Because you only have those 5 lineup spots versus 6, whereas FanDuel just went to 6 recently. So I think that their game is much more playable now. But we'll talk about things like from an ownership perspective. I think when you think about just these rankings overall, they're designed to show you point projection overall, tiers top to bottom. You know, we have a clear top 4 in terms of projected points in fantasy this week for the game. Drake May, Sam Darnold, both quarterbacks here, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker. Then you look at the tiers below it, pretty consistent in terms of where my rankings are with the rest of the analysts using the ranking system on Fantasy Pros. Ramondre Stevenson, Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, Hunter Henry, Cooper Kupp, AJ Barner, Rashid Shaheed, even Matt Collins kind of being the trendy low-cost pick here. They're all kind of in that same bucket, maybe even in this tier break here. You have George Halani, who's kind of like a trendy prop player right now. A lot of people are liking his overs on receptions, receiving yards, etc. And then I think once you get past that Matt Collins, Halani range, it's really just a crapshoot, man. Like Demario Douglas, you know, only running less than 10 routes per game at this point, especially with Matt Collins back. Travion Henderson was outsnapped 60-4 against the Broncos. Like even if he gets a couple more carries, a couple more snaps, like how much really more is it going to be, especially against this Seahawks defense? And then, you know, we saw Jake Bobo score the touchdown for Seattle. He's had a target in each of their 2 playoff games, but he's like Demario Douglas. He's only running like 7-8 routes per game. And then you can kind of put them in that same bucket as an Austin Hooper, who's going to be on the field in 2 tight end sets, more as a traditional inline tight end, the blocker. And then also spelling Hunter Henry here and there for New England. You start getting below that, like Kyle Williams, and I'll be switching from tab to tab here, looking at different things. You look at overall in terms of what the Patriots did in their game. Like we know that the weather affected that contest a lot. They really slowed things down in the second half, but at least you can look at the route data overall. Back 14 routes there overall. And then we have Demario Douglas at 9. And when you look at just the overall offensive snaps here, you can see Matt Collins 39 snaps, more snaps than Stephon Diggs. Cooper at 26. Kyle Williams at 7 routes. I believe, well, actually he had 8 routes, 8 passing snaps for Kyle Williams, 9 passing snaps for Demario Douglas. So even though Douglas has shown up and scored the touchdown so far in these playoffs for them, Kyle Williams could have just that same opportunity, just in a different game, to have a big play at both a low cost and a low ownership overall. So those are some things I'm looking at in terms of some of these bottom tier players, because in a lot of lineup builds, you're going to need to pick one of these guys. Like let's look at for Seattle, for example. I'm going to pull up their PFF snap data here. We have Jake Bobo, 7 passing snaps, aka routes, essentially. Even the backup tight end, Eric Sauber, he actually played 38 snaps in that game. A lot of them are as a blocker. You can see 22 of them run blocking snaps, 9 pass blocking snaps, and then 7 routes overall for him. So, don't put it past that it could be Saber or Saber, however you say his name, instead of Bobo. Like, those two guys essentially ran the same amount of passing play snaps overall.
Yes.
Then you start looking really far down the line as we go back. We pull up the rankings back here. Saber is the one that sticks out to me in terms of somebody who could be on the field for multiple receiving opportunities, whereas like Derek Young ran 1 route in the last game. Brady Russell, Nick Collerup, these fullback tight end kind of hybrid guys. Efton Chisholm, who's had some big plays here and there throughout the season for New England in a part-time role, he was a healthy scratch in the conference championship game. He could be a healthy scratch here again in the Super Bowl. So that's one to keep an eye on here. And Cam Akers, I don't think he's going to get really any run unless there's just a straight-up injury to one of those 2 running backs we see last week in his first game with Seattle. Just 1 snap overall was actually a route that he ran. So that's an interesting tidbit there. Whereas like all the running snaps went to either Kenneth Walker, 20 running snaps there compared to 3 for Helani and 0 for Akers, right? I mentioned the fullback, Brady Russell, 1 passing snap. The tight end / fullback, Nick Collerup, 0 passing snaps. And I don't want to just say everything's going to play out as it did in the conference championship game, but these are things you kind of want to keep an eye on overall. Let's put it back to their divisional round game, right? Let's look at Seattle for now, and then we'll start getting into the salaries. This is how I want to start thinking about some of these dart throws that we want to take. Which of these dart throws is really realistic at the end of the day? I just want to make sure that the split screen shows up pretty decently here. So let's go with this here, so I'm not flipping back and forth. Divisional round playoff game. We have for the Seahawks. I want to sort it by passing snaps overall. We see Bobo with 3 passing snaps. Let's just call them routes. 3 routes for Bobo. We have the fullback Oots, who is another option there. 2 routes for him. Derek Young, 2 routes. This is when Velus Jones was active for the team. I believe he's likely to be inactive for this game here. He was just spelling in for when Charbonnet got hurt at the end of that blowout against the 49ers, right? So these are guys where like, hey, you never know on that play action bootleg near the goal line, some type of trick play, halfback snap, or carry near the goal line where we've seen other teams run these types of plays. Saber, Bobo, Oots, Derek Young. Those are all guys who could get that touch that you need to pay off at these salary prices in our DraftKings and FanDuel contests. And I'll do the same thing here. I will go back to New England, and we have more of a bigger picture here. Obviously, Hollins didn't play in this game, which is why we see the increased routes for Kyle Williams, for Demario Douglas. Hooper had a very low route participation in that game. We saw Chisholm with 3 routes, and then we see, as I mentioned, the fullback Jack Westover with 3 routes. So he's another option there. I believe the only guy that we're not seeing on this list, we have Brady Russell and Nick Collerup for the Seahawks. Let's see, Brady Russell, 0 passing snaps in the divisional playoff. Nick Collerup, I don't even think he's on this list. Or he is right here, 0 passing snaps for him. And then who got 1 in the conference championship, just to see like if this person's even ran a route in the last 2 weeks. So Nick Collerup has 0 passing snaps in both games, right? Look, I mean, that could change overall. We could take a look here. We're kind of talking about the bottom of the barrel, but sometimes either the guys you want to build these lineups to fit other guys in.
Yeah.
So you look at throughout the season, he has run a route every now and again. So these are his routes per game starting in week 10, 2 routes per game. In week 14, he ran 4 routes overall, 8 passing snaps overall. So these are some of the things that we're looking at in terms of like, are these guys viable to throw in our lineups as dart throws, or maybe you have the right combination other than those 5 guys, and you're still able to win your contest because you had the right 5 guys, and then you still win with a 0 for your 6th guy, right? Or you have them or more balanced build at the end of the day. So anyways, I just wanted to run through the rankings and the tiers first to kind of set that up. Quarterback wise, Ben, I'm assuming you just have Darnold in much higher regard here than Drake May, even though Drake May checks in with a higher projection and higher rushing floor potentially in this contest.
I do, and that's just basically based off of just him throwing touchdowns. The thing that's kind of scares me if I don't go with May is the May rushing yards is what can definitely start stacking points for him, whether it's in the captain's position or in one of the basic roster spots, flex spots there.
Right.
And I think you have to include May into it, even if he just throws one touchdown, because it could be a touchdown, an interception, and he rushes for 60, 70 yards, especially if that's all the Seattle offense or defense is going to give him. If they're covering everybody and he can't get the ball out, there's going to be a lot of open space for him to rush.
Right. Yeah. And that's what keeps his floor a little bit higher here. So I want to pull up the solver. This is an optimizer and simulation tool from Established to Run. I have their optimizer up right now. Their solver, their simulation tool, which we get into a little bit later, that doesn't launch until Thursday each week. So we're coming here for an early look show on Tuesday afternoon. Just want to talk about here, like looking at Drake May, $11,000 salary. Obviously, the projection here at 19. These are the top 5 projected players by a decent margin from JSN, and then down to Ramondre Stevenson as the 5th highest projected player. I think overall, when you look at position by position, it's JSN could be in like almost 100% of lineups. They have his tentative ownership projection at 48%. I think that's actually going to be a lot higher when you look at the other options on this slate. But to me, if JSN's ownership is only coming in at 48%, I definitely do want to play him. When you sort by ownership projection here, Drake May is coming in as the top. I think because of that rushing ability, and also because his price tag as a quarterback, JSN is the most expensive. So usually you don't see that. Usually the quarterbacks are coming in often as the highest, most expensive players on the slate here. So just looking at ownership overall, I think it's pretty straightforward down in terms of like you're playing in a field of 2,000 people, of 200,000 people, depending on how many, how much you're trying to win here. I think that you need to target at some point guys that are falling below this 30%, this 20% ownership threshold. And again, these are very early in the week. These could change. Different websites have different ownership projections, but I kind of just want to use this as a baseline for how to think about putting your lineup together. You can find a lot of these for free online as well. So make sure to always keep ownership projections in mind when building these lineups out. I think the one thing, couple things that stand out to me in terms of lower owned players in DFS. You mentioned the Seahawks defense in your conviction, right? Yeah. $4,400 price tag, but projected ownership of less than 10%. So that's something that could provide some value here. We talked about George Halani, liking some of his props over the amount that he played in the conference championship game in place of Zach Charbonnet. Halani hadn't played a game before that since week 11 when he went on IR, and they were willing to throw him out there for almost 25 snaps in that game, gave him multiple touches, multiple targets in the passing game. So those two,
and I believe he was also running the 2-minute drill for them.
Oh, yeah. No, he's long down in distance. He's 2-minute drill. I wouldn't even be surprised to see him get a carry at the 1-yard line if they get super close and fill that role, because they kind of know Kenneth Walker's not that guy to hit the hole the way you want him to hit the hole, right? So, and then you have the guys we were talking about before, kind of dumpster diving, right? Like $200 could go a long way to filling up the rest of your roster with stud players. So the Nick Collar, Robbie Oots, the fullback, Jack Westover, Brady Russell. I think the more realistic ones are Kyle Williams and Jake Bobo, but they're priced a lot more accordingly here. And I'll just list it by salary overall, going from top to bottom. You see the reason why, these guys are low owned. It's interesting. And we talked about Saubert. He's projected for a decent amount of ownership at 10% for a $600 player, which kind of makes me think that I want to get away from possibly putting him into my lineup for a guy that cheap to be 10%. He gets a 0. You pick somebody else as your cheap player. You get a couple more points. You're instantly passing 10% of the rest of the contest field that you're going up against, right?
Yes.
So long story short, we're going to make this a pretty quick episode and probably do a separate one on FanDuel to kind of run through those numbers as well. but I did run the optimizer before we got on here, and just to showing you, like, I want to build 1,000 lineups based off all the projections here. And these are what the highest projected scoring lineups within that realm hold. And that's why we see Saubert as part of like the 10% ownership, because he's in the most optimal lineup right now. Jackson Smith and Jigba at captain. No surprise there. We've got Drake May with the rushing as the highest projected quarterback on the slate. We have the highest projected running back on the slate. We have the second highest projected running back on the slate. Then we had the trendy, somewhat cheap name of George Holani, 2.4 thousand. So if you're going to enter any type of contest, tournament that is, like where you're not just playing against one other person, you're playing for a large prize pool, this is a lineup you don't want to submit because it's going to be duplicated. If this lineup somehow wins the contest we're going to be talking about,
it's going to be a lot.
You could be splitting first place with like 200 other people. That's not the way you want to go about playing these tournaments, even if you're talking about single entry, 3-entry max tournaments, etc., which are the ones that me and Ben play a lot of, for obviously a little bit lower stakes, not the milli makers where you can submit 150 lineups a piece. If you go a little bit further down the board, you start to see some like basic swap variations, right? Like Cooper Kupp and Matt Collins, right? Instead of Ramondre Stevenson and Eric Saubert. So there's a 2-for-2 right there where the rest of the lineup remains the same. You start seeing some kickers involved in this as you go down, right? We see the kicker. We see now the Patriots kicker here. We see the Seahawks defense surface in the fourth most projected point lineup of the slate there. So I know you might like that as well. What I want to do is like, I want to go based off your game script, Ben, because I think it's a very unique angle that a lot of people aren't considering. I think people are considering, yes, Seahawks cover. I don't think many people are considering Seahawks cover and hold the Patriots to 7 points.
Well, if I could say this, Chris, I think a lot of people, obviously everyone that are playing these games have watched the entire playoffs go through, and they saw New England go and beat a Chargers defense that is decent, beat probably one of the best defenses in the NFL in Houston, and then beat another really great defense in Denver. And even though I think a lot of that had weather concerns, and on top of that, New England's defense scored a lot of points for the offense too. Just having them set up, just to set them up in position to score, I feel is still a defensive points.
Right.
And I think a lot of people that are going to be playing these games are overestimating. What's what I'm looking for? They're overestimating New England's offense.
Yeah.
When in fact it's New England's defense, I feel really set them up to score these points. Or even with the pick six that happened in the Houston game, just straight out scored the points.
Yeah. But you feel pretty confident about the Seahawks offense being able to combat New England's defense in this scenario compared to what we saw with Stidham and Stroud.
Oh yeah, because I think they're battle tested against the 49ers defense was hurt a lot, but I give a lot of credit to my Rams. I think their defense is really good. And that battle test alone, I think, they're probably about the same defense between New England and LA. And I really think with Kubiak wanting to go out with his song swan before he goes and becomes a coach for the Raiders, I think they're gonna be really set to punish this New England defense.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You look at the captain ownership projections that Drake May is actually the most has the highest ownership tag for playing in that captain spot, which means I will play definitely some JSN in the captain spot, being that he's kind of tied for second place there with Kenneth Walker. I think Kenneth Walker struggles a lot in this game. I think that what you said could fit with some of what I was thinking matchup-wise. And these lineups need to tell a story, right?
Yes.
And what they need to tell a story is like, how is this game script going to go? And can these other 5 pieces with your captain be correlated in a way to where if you get that right game script and you submit, let's say you submit 10 lineups, 10 showdown lineups for the Super Bowl, you want to tell a story with each lineup. We could submit one lineup now where exactly what Ben said, 24-7 Seahawks, the defense dominates. But how do the Seahawks score their points? And maybe it's through the air. It doesn't always have to be on the ground when you're winning in a positive game script like that. And that's something that I've been thinking a lot about as well, is that like just because the Seahawks win in a blowout doesn't mean it's the running back that gets the majority of the fantasy points here, because I believe the Patriots have an elite run defense. And if we're talking about a game where it's like, hey, halftime it's 7-3, it's still a one possession game. By the end of the third quarter, hey, maybe it's 13-6, maybe it's 10-3, right? And then Seattle maybe gets a touchdown late. It could be all funneling through Jackson Smith and Jigba and Sam Darnold. So what I want to do here is like, let's take the Sam Darnold route. We put him at captain because they say, hey, the Patriots have an elite run defense, but the Seahawks are going to get their points. They're going to scheme things up the right way. We want to put JSN in that same lineup, right? So we want to move to flex here. I'm going to add him to our lineup, and we're going to use the optimizer. I'm going to put it down to 100 lineups. So say our top 100 lineups with this combination here. And let's go with what you said as well, because I think this will be a relatively unknown combination, which you kind of want to shoot for. Getting Seahawks defense also getting these points in this same format, right? Like Kenneth Walker doesn't do it, but it's the defense and it's the combination of Darnold to JSN. And I think obviously this won't be a heavily owned combination, but we can see past this happening, and you start to get some combinations you see here. We're like, okay, this second lineup also includes Drake May and Matt Collins. We throw Halani in there as the possible short distance back. And we look at the ownership, like the average ownership on a slate like this, your total combined player ownership is probably going to be around 200. We're getting a big discount on that, which is good, which means that this is going to be maybe a non-duplicated lineup, especially in a field of like 2,000 or so people. So I think I like this one for now, just to kind of get out of here, Ben, is Sam Darnold, and we'll come back and update these, post them on Twitter and Discord, etc. Sam Darnold to JSN. We got the Seahawks defense. We have Halani possibly getting that short, maybe 2-minute drill touchdown, maybe 2-minute drill receiving work. We're talking about full PPR format and DraftKings here. We got May in there, just the point projection itself, right? 19.4 points.
Yes.
If they score a touchdown, it's likely to be through May, right? I would put it more through May than for Stevenson. And then we have Matt Collins in here, who does offer a decent value, and his ownership is surprisingly low because they bumped up his price a lot from the conference championship round. I like that more than compared to this onslaught Seahawks lineup where you put Walker in, you put Shaheed in, but it's like, are they all going to be able to stand out enough on their own to where you're only getting Matt Collins from the other side? So that's the biggest, like same thing here. Onslaught Seahawks lineup. Onslaught means 5 of one team and 1 of the other, with just Kayshon Boutte. Another onslaught with just Borregales, the kicker, right? We have one here, the 5th highest projected lineup in our optimizer based off the rules we put in. Patriots defense and Matt Collins. I think I like this one the most here. We get the ownership discount for now. Obviously, things could change and we can adjust, but I'm going to wind up putting this in to our lineup here. And let's try this out. Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I'm going to enter that one as well.
Captain. We're going to go JSN. We're going to go Drake May. We are going to go Halani. Seahawks defense punched in that short touchdown. Sam Darnold and JSN dominate through the air. The Seahawks defense also maybe a pick 6 touchdown, maybe just a lot of sacks, maybe a lot of turnovers. I think compared to some of the skill players, we could see a lot of low point projections on outputs from them at the end of the day. And then we're going to throw Matt Collins in here. I think the two things to think about with Matt Collins is that the Seahawks defense is very strong against outside receivers, but they can be beat, linebackers, safeties, etc. I think most of the attention will be on limiting the deep throws from Kayshon Boutte. You're going to see guys like Stephon Diggs, Hunter Henry, Matt Collins get opportunities through the air. We saw Hollins already get a decent workload in his first came back off IR in the conference championship round in a very tough matchup as well. His targets went up a ton earlier in the season before he got hurt too. He was seeing upwards of almost 20% target share per game. So anyways, quick lineup building show, going through our thought process in terms of point projections, ownership projections, thinking through correlation. Obviously, we have our Darnold JSN here, thinking through being contrarian, right? Like standing out from the crowd. This lineup specifically here that we're about to submit, This is a $12 single entry, only 2,450 entrants in this lineup. But I think in this type of lineup, I'm very confident that this is a type of lineup that maybe there's a couple of dupes, but not a lot, or maybe there's no dupes at all. What kind of remains to be seen. Anytime you're taking up the full salary and not leaving anything on the table, usually, but we're leaving $800 on the table. I think that's also going to be a unique thing to consider. A lot of people are going to try to drive this all the way down to zero. And if you can leave any type of salary on the table when you're submitting these lineups, you only have so many options. I think you're giving yourself another reason to be contrarian when everything is brought to the surface upon kickoff, and you can see the rest of the lineups that you're competing against here. So that's what we're going to do for this lineup here. We'll talk some more DFS strategy, some more best ball stuff after the Super Bowl is over. But this just wanted to be a quick lineup building show, talk about projections, talk about strategy overall. Ben, appreciate your insight here jumping on. I'll see you again in a couple days, and have a safe and fun trip to Vegas, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Let's win some money, baby.